All right, so I'm going to ramble about my current philosophy or my current state of mind regarding my painting and painting process. I'm just going to go through a few key points and discuss them. All right, so first, paint itself. I use mostly Utrecht paints and Winton. I use Winton for titanium white and also ultramarine. And then for the cadmium colors and the other colors, earth tones and stuff, I use Utrecht brand. My philosophy with paint is to use the best quality at the lowest price, which seems obvious and makes sense. And the reason is I like to squeeze out a lot of paint, and I like to use a lot, feel free to use a lot of paint and experiment, scrape it off, whatever. I don't want to feel limited, you know, by the fact that I'm using expensive paint or that I'm wasting paint. I want to just be able to go for it. So that's my feeling about paint. And then panels and canvas. As far as the size of my panels or canvas, I do not paint. I don't usually paint under a 12 by 12, and even 12 by 12 seems small. I do a bunch of 12 by 12s for my little cityscapes for my show at Studio Gallery every year, and they do very well. Last year there were 10 in the show, all 10 of them sold. So I do those. Although I do feel like they're very challenging because it's a lot of information in a small space. It'd be probably a lot more enjoyable to do them larger. So maybe next year I'll bump it up to 16 by 16, or I don't know, we'll see. But typically I don't like to paint smaller than 12 by 12. When I'm on site, I paint 12 by 16s is my smallest size. And the reason is just because of the way I like to paint. I like to swing the brush. I like to use a larger brush, mostly just like a number 8 natural bristle flat. But I find that brush holds a lot of paint. The smaller the brush goes, even if it's a flat, you can barely get any paint on it. And you end up just scraping off the paint off of your panel. So that was one of the frustrations I had when I was painting smaller. Now you could of course use smaller brushes and everything. I don't know. It just, to me, I just like using number 8 bristle, natural bristle, flat, and on like say a 12 by 16 or larger. It seems to get the effects that I like. I can't seem to get that spontaneity and energy that I want to see in my work in smaller works. I end up fussing around and spending way too much time on smaller pieces trying to correct them. It's just, I just don't enjoy painting them. So that's kind of my philosophy on the size of the panels. Nothing wrong with painting small. Occasionally I will do like 8 by 8s and even 6 by 6s, and I'll use a large brush which will force me to keep it simple. So occasionally I'll do it, but less and less. Okay, and now panel or canvas. I've been going more towards panels. If you guys, you guys probably know I make my own panels out of masonite, and then I give them 3 coats of gesso. 3rd coat has a little bit of pumice in it, which gives it some tooth and absorbency. I really love that surface, and I want to keep my surfaces consistent. I find that when I switch over to canvas, it behaves differently, it takes the paint differently, and I have to alter my process in order to make the painting work, which is not terrible, but it is, I think I just rather not. I'd rather just paint on the same surface and know what to expect. And mostly I paint on my own panels, and then I can control the consistency of that surface. I know what to expect. I can control the consistency. I can make the panels any size that I want. And I do like painting on site, so panels are easier than canvas. Canvas gets backlit most of the time, so you get that light shining through the back often, and panels are easier to store. I mean, I paint a lot. I find that storing panels is really easy. I mean, you can just put, 100 of them in a box, whereas stretch canvases take up a lot of room. So I paint mostly on panels, and I'm gonna start making larger panels too, because currently I'm doing, when they get big enough, say like 36 by 36 and bigger, I switch to canvas, and I may stick with that. I'm not sure. I don't think I'd make them out of masonite. I'd probably make the panels out of like birch ply, something like that, some kind of plywood. like a really fine, smooth plywood. So not sure what I'm going to do there, but most of my work is, you know, is kind of under that size. Like I do a few large pieces like that every year. I may do more in the future, but for now, yeah, most of my work is under 36 by 36. And let's see what else. Yeah, I talked about my brushes. Lately I've been using one brush for a whole painting. Utrecht 209 Natural Bristle Flat number 8. That's my favorite brush right now, even on a larger painting. Although I do break out a number 10 Synthetic Bright occasionally when I'm not getting the effects I want, and I can get sort of a nice chiseled effect with that brush. So those are the main brushes I use. And on the size panels that I'm working, I can get the level of detail I need with that brush without bringing in a smaller brush. Cityscapes, not so much. A cityscape I will break out like maybe a number 4 liner brush or rigger for some details like cars, like reflections and stuff like that. Medium, my favorite medium outdoors is Liquin. I like the fact that you can kind of loosen up the paint and mop it on there and cover things really quickly. So that's my go-to medium outdoors, and I mix it differently depending on what I'm trying to achieve. I do put it in the initial scrub in because I want the paint film, you know, I like to thin and get a transparent block in particular in the darks. And so I like to thin it so that it scrubs on transparently, but then it also is a strong paint film. If I were to just thin that with odorless mineral spirits, it would break down the binder, and then sometimes you could even just scrape off the paint. There's just not enough binder in there to keep the paint on the panel. So Liquin allows me to really thin it down, but it creates a strong paint film. So I really like Liquin, and I'm trying to find a replacement for indoors. I just bought some solvent-free gel from Gamblin, and I'm hoping that that's kind of an indoor alternative to Liquin. So more on that later. Now, as far as my approach goes to painting, composition is king. I prefer painting on location more and more. I'm more excited about plein air painting than ever. I feel like I do better paintings. It pushes me. Oftentimes I feel out of control or off balance and I'm just relying on instinct, but you know, you've got to trust your instinct. You probably, and I think we tend to want to control everything. But you know, if you've been painting for a while, it's in there. You know what to do. You know, it's just, I think sometimes overthinking can get in the way of creating a good painting. So I love painting outdoors. It's so much more inspiring than painting from a photograph or a digital image. I still will paint from digital images always, because there are certain paintings I can't do outdoors, cityscapes or, you know, more complicated subject matter or whatever. So I definitely will still do that, but my preferred way of painting is from life outdoors. And the key thing, regardless of the type of painting I'm doing, the main focus is the design, the compositional idea. And as you guys have heard me talk about in recent videos, that's the most important thing. I'm not out trying to create an exact duplicate of what I'm seeing. I'm trying to capture the essence of what I'm seeing, and I'll move things around and push color in order to do that, to get a good painting. The painting is the most important thing to me. I want to create something, a painting that I like or that is exciting to me, and I find that oftentimes by you know, moving things around, I can create and capture the feel of a place, even though it's not, like I said, an exact replication or replica. And so that's kind of my goal or my approach when I go out to paint. So come up with a compositional idea, kind of walk around, think about it for a while, think, oh yeah, maybe I'll move those trees over here, I'll shorten this hill, blah, 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 whatever. And then I do the sketch, and during the sketch with burnt sienna on the panel, I don't do any preliminary sketching. I sketch on the panel, I'll wipe it out, I'll change things around, because once everything is laid out the way I like it, then I go. It's not this idea of I got this sketch and now I'm transferring it. To me, that's a break in the flow for me personally. I like to just keep going. So to me, you know, if I'm sketching in burnt sienna and I wipe it out, it's just like I have a toned panel. So there's no, you know, it's kind of my chalkboard to play around on until I get a clear idea, and then I start laying in my darks, which kind of anchors the whole composition. So after I've got the compositional idea, lay in the darks, then walk back and ask myself, okay, the light dark pattern here, am I seeing a strong composition? If not, I'll make the necessary changes. If I like it, I proceed, I'll scrub in approximate colors, and then same thing, periodically going back to make sure that the changes I'm making aren't messing up the composition, which is the most important thing. I'm thinking about that constantly. And then, and if it's not, then I proceed to just kind of fine tuning, adding thicker paint where it needs to be added. Typically I work dark to light, so that end period I'll be laying in the lights, and then, like I said, making whatever adjustments I need to make. At this point also I start looking for slight variations in temperature in any given shape that I may have. Like in the surface of the water, I might start looking for variations in temperature and, you know, subtle shifts of temperature and value without breaking up the overall design. So I'm always conscious of not adding detail that's going to detract from the overall composition. So what are my goals at this point? My goals at this point, I mean, I've done probably, I don't know, it's like maybe 9 big gallery shows, and when I say that, I mean, you know, a solo show with between 35 to 50 paintings. So I'm going to continue doing that. I'm going to do a year. I have an annual show at Studio Gallery in the fall. That's going to be my primary show. I may participate in a few like group shows here and there, but I'm going to put all of my work into that annual show. I think the thing that I'm motivated now to do is to push my work to a higher level just for my own personal satisfaction. So like when I go and see a show, like say at the Legion of Honor, I saw a Monet show, and I walked through that room and everything is in the like 25 by 30 range, and it's just, you saw how much work he did and on what's on the scale as well. Like a lot of larger paintings. So I think the goal for me is to up it to the level of somebody, you know, like the French Impressionists who are out painting in that size range, painting a lot. Early California painters were doing that as well. So I think that's the goal for me, is to kind of paint larger in the future. And, you know, I've scaled it up to the point where, you know, I'm very comfortable doing a 16 by 20 on site, but I think the next step is to start doing some 25 by 30s and maybe even bigger if it's not too windy. So those are my current thoughts regarding process and where I am. You know, as far as, process and career or whatever. I really enjoy making YouTube videos, so that's something that I'm going to continue doing. To me, making videos there's like creative satisfaction in that as well. It's very creative, and also too, I love the interaction I have on YouTube here with everybody. It's really inspiring. So I plan to keep doing this as long as I can. So one thing that helps is support on Patreon. So if you get something out of my videos, you enjoy them, there's a link to Patreon down below. And I will do a little Patreon pitch here. The thing that I really dig about Patreon is I have a different sort of relationship. It's almost the way I'm talking right now. If I get an idea, I can just pop it on there. I don't edit it or whatever. It's all just very spontaneous, very in the moment. And, you know, then there's a good discussion in the comment section. And so I really do enjoy having the Patreon. It's a very casual sort of, you know, medium for me to share ideas. And so I'm digging that. Anyway, and also supports the channel. So if you want to check out those extra videos, there's a link down below. But as usual, leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think. And thanks for hanging out. See you guys in the next video.